Hello, welcome to the fifth video of the Python tutorial video series. Um, we're going to be looking at math operators in this video. Now, I'm going to show you all the operators right now, just to show you how this works. Now, I'm going to start off making a comment, just to show you what a comment is. Comment is actually a comment up here, but comment is basically you can write anything in the comment and it will not be run. So I can comment out any of these. I'm just going to delete this because I don't want it anymore. I can comment out this print statement, and when I say the name, nothing will be printed out of the name. But when I uncomment it, the name is J again, it will print out the J over here. Comments are pretty useful for just writing down what code is used for. That's what they are. They're comments. That's why they're named like that. So in a comment right here, I'm going to type out all the math operators that I know off the top of my head. Plus, minus, equals, highlight that, and modulus. Each one of these has a different purpose, different use. I'm going to spread them all out here so you can know what they mean. So I did minus, equals, divide, multiply, modulus, exponent. So each one of these is a different thing. Now the first couple are self-explanatory. This is a plus sign, and it's used for addition. Now this right here, it's a minus sign, and it's used for subtraction. This is an equal sign, so this isn't an operator, but it'll basically declare something. I used it up here. It's pretty self-explanatory. You're making something equal a value, so equal sign. This is the division, so I believe this is slash. It's used for division. It's asterisk, so it's used for multiplication. This is a modulus sign. Now, this is used to get a remainder. Modulus. And this will become really useful. I'll show you in a second, but this will become really useful if you're looking for whether or not something's an even or odd. You're trying to find the remainder of whatever is going to be divided by. So I'll show you that in a second, but I'm just going to get to this last one here. This is 2 asterisks, and this is used for an exponent. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of examples of the plus and minus sign are pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to go over them, but they're pretty self-explanatory. Now, I'm going to go over a couple of things about data types in this too, because you want to know how to use them and what data type is going to come out as if you're going to be adding or subtracting. So let's say I have a float or double, and I'm adding it to an int. Okay, still have the other program running. So let's say I have a float and then an int. Now it's going to come out as a float because you want to keep that float right there, and if you add it to an integer, like let's say it's 5.1 plus 5, if that float right here, if that's just converted back to an integer, it's going to be 5. So basically, and if I do print 5 plus 5, those are two ints adding together. That equals 10 because they're both the same thing. Usually floats take precedence in calculations like this, so if you're dividing anything, it comes out as a double because it just does. And then for multiplications, it's also like division. It will come out as a double. Now, for modulus, I'm going to show you modulus right here. So let's say we want to find the remainder of dividing 15 by 5. So 15 divided by 5 is going to come out as a whole number. It's going to come out to 3.0. So that's good because really anything we divide by a whole number is going to have a remainder of 0. So let's check that out. 15 divided by 5, that's 0 because it has a whole number. There are 3 5s that go into 15. And that's pretty easy to understand. Now if I do 16 divided by 5, now there are also 3 5s that go into 15, but then there's going to be 1 left. So if you take 16, you minus 5, and then you minus 5 again, you will come out with 1. Now this is very useful. Let's say you want to check if a number is even or odd. All you got to do is take any number. Let me see if this number is even or odd. And take a modulus, and then 2. Now this number is odd because it has a 3 at the end. And just by looking at this, I'm going to say it's going to return a 1. Even doing that, I'm just going to add some more numbers. Now watch as I'm right, because 2 goes into this a lot of times, but it's an odd number. So there will always be a remainder of 1. It never goes in an exact amount of time, so it'll have a remainder of 1. And that's a pretty useful thing right there. It'll be very useful for other applications, and it's very useful for beginner programs and even more advanced programs. So it's also really useful. Now I'm going to get to the exponent part, which is, let's say I want to do 5 square root 2. That is 25. It'll come out to 25. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Also, if that this will do exponential, this is multiplication, this is division, it's an equal sign plus a minus sign, and that's pretty much it for the simple operators. And yeah, so this is pretty much all you need to know right now. There will be other operators that'll come into play, but those are usually in the form of a function, and you'll have to import math. There's a library called math, and you'll have to import it. I think you do. In some programming languages, you'll need to import it. So I'm going to go over something called casting. Now, casting is pretty useful. Let's say, so I said earlier that the input statement will always return a string. So let me do z equals input, this number will be added to 3. Now, I said it wouldn't work last time, but that's technically not true. Because if we do a thing called casting, we can change the data type. Now, if it's compatible, if we can change it to a data type, if we can change, a string to, if the string's like a number, a whole number, or a floating point number, we can cast it to an integer or a double, or a float. So I'll show you that right now. So print then integer z plus 3. Now this is how you cast something as an integer. Now this will only work if you add a number. So let's say we're going to add 5 to 3, comes out as 8. Now, the problem with this is that if you want to actually type something in, it'll return an error. Because that's not an integer. You can't convert, 7 or you can't convert 5 J's to a number. That's just silly. So you can also do this with, doubles. So we can do, or floats. I'm going to call them floats because that's what they are. Float z plus 3. That'll come out as float. Now we're going to add 5 again to 3. There's 8 and there's 8.0. Now that's casting in a nutshell, but let's say we wanted to cast a bunch of numbers to a string. So let's say y equals 666 times 66 times 45. Now we can you won't be able to see it very well, but we can cast this to a string. So I'll print str y. We could say that, and that's a string, believe it or not. We can test this later when I show you guys how to test whether or not something's a specific data type. But that's about it with casting. That's about it with math operators. I'm also going to throw in something called concatenation. So let's say you want to add 2 strings together. So let's say I want to create word 1. Bear with me here. Say the first word. And then we're going to create word 2. Now, let's say I'm just going to do this first. Now, just by using simple logic here, we're taking the input of 2 strings right here. So we're taking this string, we're going to take whatever is returned from this input statement, whatever is returned from this input statement, and we're going to add them together. Now, this seems like sort of simple, but remember that we can't do this with any other data type, only strings. We can add together floats and integers, but we can't really add together integers and strings unless we use something special like a comma. So this can be helpful in some ways because we can do something like this. We can add a space. We can add any string we want. You can add really anything that we want here. So we're going to add a space between these 2 words and then add an exclamation point at the end. Now I'm going to go through the other program again. Now I'm going to say the first word. It's going to be hello. And guess the second word, world. It says hello world. Now that is also pretty useful. When you're creating such a wide range of programs, you can really use a lot of aspects of this. So casting is going to come in handy a lot. Casting's very useful, and we will also be seeing casting when we make some programs later in the series. But that right now is it for me. Thank you for watching. The next couple of videos we'll be going over these things called increment operators, and then we will finally get to if statements. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned for those. Goodbye.